Hello, everybody. It is Saturday, the 4th, I believe, of April. We have been crucified. We're in the tomb, and we're waiting for our resurrection, which apparently happens tomorrow. Okay. I want to talk about this new vision for humanity that apparently we're going toward. The age of cooperation. Yeah? Well, if the age of Aquarius is the age of enlightenment, we're a long way off it. I tell you that. So anyway, we're going to the age of cooperation as proclaimed to all of us by the prophet Greg Braden. And I just listened to him this morning and I thought, bloody hell. We're going to do the same thing all over again. We are. We're going around the same circle, following another false prophet. Pattern recognition. You really need to go into pattern recognition because the same thing is happening over and over again. And what you have is first of all, you have a vision. Something we're all going toward to. A great brilliant future for humanity, the promised land where we're all going. And then you get the prophet that is showing you the way. Now the first thing that prophet does is he gives you knowledge. He shows himself to be knowledgeable because that means you trust him. You recognize him as something that is above yourself, has greater knowledge than yourself, and that creates trust. And the knowledge may well be truth. They don't have to lie about that. I mean, as I said, in the case of Jesus as the prophet that led us, supposedly leading us to this wonderful kingdom of peace, which for some reason we haven't gotten to. And he brought knowledge and he showed the workings of that knowledge, which is spiritual knowledge, which was healing and stuff like that, which I actually believe to be truth. But it created trust. So you have the vision of that beautiful future, which is truth. We should go toward that. We should go toward a world of peace. Again, that is something that is our desire. That is the truth within us, our true desire. And you've been shown knowledge that is also truth. And then comes the way. The way to use that knowledge to get you to that outcome. And that is where the whole thing gets crooked. Because the way the prophet shows will not lead you to that outcome, was never intended to lead you to that outcome. But as I said, as the sheep were dazzled by knowledge and trust the elevated one, they will indiscriminately do what they're told. It is, first of all, you give them food that is truth until you have that trust, until the sheep go back to sleep, and then you can start adding the poison. Because by that point, the sheep will indiscriminately eat everything that you give them. They will no longer discern for themselves. That is the pattern that has repeated itself over and over and over again. So, and in the case of Jesus, what is the way to this kingdom of peace? The denial of self, the crucifixion of your own knowing, the non-judgment, and really importantly, don't ask for yourself, but give. That is the way. And that is bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. So the next big pattern repeat that I could see recently was communism. Again, you've got this great vision of from all according to their ability to all according to their needs, which is truth. It is actually the truth of this world. That is a rule of nature. It is a law of this world. So we recognize that as truth, we're elevating the prophet for seeing that truth. He's very knowledgeable. He's all the way up there. And we start trusting, and the prophet will show us the way. In the case of Karl Marx, build a dictatorship. Yes, absolutely. That will lead to communism. Yeah? Again, sheep love the vision, and there's nothing wrong with loving that vision. That vision was good. The vision of Jesus was good. There was nothing wrong with loving the vision. Trust the prophet, and then being fed bullshit. But because you are trusting the prophet, you're eating the bullshit without discernment. And you're being led on a way, again, on a way that cannot possibly lead to the outcome. It was never intended to lead to that outcome. Yeah? Actually, it wasn't even intended to create a change, because this world has remained unchanging. The few have ruled over the many. Yeah? And every time the many wake up and try to rise in their own truth, saying we are being enslaved, we are being hurt, we're being used, we're being sucked dry. Every time we wake up to that truth, we're being shown a new vision and a new way to a better future, and it is always leading us back to the same. We are always going back to the beginning. We are going around in circles. We're always going back to the beginning, and nothing changes. So, the new age, the new brilliant future that we're going to, again brought to you by an extremely knowledgeable prophet. And as I am waking up to what he's just said, I'm actually wondering how knowledgeable they actually are, because I cannot actually confirm their knowledge. You know, that entire group of them, you know, that are all so scientific, because for most of us, we don't understand the word they're saying, especially when it comes to quantum physics. Yeah? I mean, who actually understands those equations? Yeah? They sound very knowledgeable, and, you know, they might go over 3 whiteboards or something. Wow, there's knowledge. Yeah, do you actually know that? Do you actually know that what is on that whiteboard is truth, and if you don't understand a word of what is written in there? Anyway, so I would question, I'm coming to the point where I'm questioning now, seeing what he's doing, which is false. But again, they are presenting that as knowledge. You trust the elevated one, the one that is so much more knowledgeable than yourself. He gives you the vision of a great future, which, as we're going into the age of cooperation, yeah, which is brilliant new future for humanity. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the vision is truth. The vision is the truth of this world. Yes, nature is built on cooperation. Absolutely it is. So the vision is true. And we're trusting the prophet because he's knowledgeable. So we're at that stage. And now we'll start adding the poison. And I've just heard the poison this morning. I've heard the poison that's been added into the food for the sheep. And the sheep have gone to sleep already. They're eating without discernment. I've heard Greg Braden say this morning, you know, the old vision was survival of the fittest, and because he's harping on about Charles Darwin, which is not true. No, it is not built on survival of the fittest. It is built on cooperation. Okay. So how do we get, and now comes the way, how do we get to the point of cooperation? And he says, well, survival of the fittest is built on asking for yourself. Yeah? What is in it for yourself? And to get to the age of cooperation, you must not ask what is in it for yourself. You must give. Here we go again. I mean, are you serious? Are you actually serious? Here here we go again. Sacrifice of self. Give, give, give. That is not cooperation. Giving, giving, giving is not cooperation. Let me explain to you what the law of nature is and what cooperating actually means. It means that everything that is in the group that is cooperating, every part of that group gives, and every part of that group receives something out of it. What is created in a state of cooperation should be beneficial to all that are cooperating. Yeah? So if you are truly entering into something where you're cooperating with others, you should bloody well ask what is in it for you. Of course you should ask what is in it for you. You're supposed to get something out of it. You absolutely should ask what is in it for yourself. And here it is. We're going from, oh no, it's all receiving for yourself. We swing again into the other extreme. It is giving, giving, giving. Neither side is right. Cooperation is a mixture of the both, of the two. It is giving and receiving. So no, the way of giving and not asking what is in it for yourself will not lead to a beautiful future of cooperation. We're going to the same bullshit again, because if we are all giving, who is receiving? Please stay there. Who's receiving? Who is receiving? I can tell you who's receiving. The ones up there that are feeding us that bullshit. Please go over for me. It's the same thing all over again. We're ending up in the same place again. We're not creating something new. We're pinning a new label onto the old thing. And we're just, it is wash, rinse, repeat. That's what we're doing. Wash, rinse, repeat. So, and then here comes Greg Braden again saying, we are building a head-heart connection. Yeah? The head-heart connection. Okay. If it is in your head that what he's describing is cooperation, then I really would not connect that to the heart. In fact, you should not connect your head to your heart until your head has got straight what is actually going on. Yeah? Only then should you create a heart connection. Again, trust, do. We're going into cooperation. We're going to give. Have that in your head, connected to your heart. Be that. We're creating the same bullshit over and over again. There is the pattern recognition of what's going on. A prophet that shows you a vision that is good and that is true. A prophet that gains your trust by elevating himself or portraying himself as being very knowledgeable. So you trust his knowledge, and then that prophet will show you a way. And there's where the poisoning begins. Yeah, there's wheat and there's the tares. By the time the sheep start trusting, they start adding the tares, sowing the tares amongst the wheat, adding the poison to the food. And the outcome is not a world of peace. It was not communism, and it is not going to be a world of cooperation. There will be no change, because we are doing the same thing over and over and over again until we wake up to some truth, and until we stop going unconscious and trusting. We must stay awake. We must discern what it is we are being told. At every point, we cannot go asleep, because evil is around us and we need to be able to recognize it. And for that, we have to be awake. So stay awake and do discern. We want a world of peace. Communism, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. To all from all according to their ability to all according to their needs. Yeah, good. Cooperation, fantastic. But every part of all of that means giving and receiving. Both ends of the truth coming together, not one or the other. And then yes, we should be giving creatures that have compassion and give to others, and we should bloody well ask what is in it for ourselves. We should. Giving will lead to your death. Will lead to the loss of self, will lead to your destruction. And that is the path we have been always led on, every bloody time, and it is now happening again. So recognize what's going on. And be in opposition. Absolutely be in opposition. This is wrong. Anyway, I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.